So I saw this article and I listened to some radio hits that discussed this as well, but it was a little bit too close to Canucks game time. So I was like, okay, we could just move that over to tomorrow. And lo and behold, Canucks game time against the Carolina Hurricanes, total dud. Now it's tomorrow. So we're going to go out there and talk about this quote because a Calgary Flames defenseman just threw some massive shade towards the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. And we're going to get into it more in this video. So we're heading over to sportsnet.ca, where Eric Francis, yesterday, January 10th, went out there and posted an article talking about Flames defenseman Rasmus Andersson and how he is eyeing his future in Calgary despite uncertainty. Now, if you needed the scoop, we have talked about Andersson quite a few times on this channel over the past few months. He's 28 years old, 6'1", 203, right-handed defenseman, signed on till the end of 25-26, making $4.5 million a year. You see, Rasmus Andersson is a few years removed from a 50-point season in 21-22. He had 49 points the year after and 39 points the year after that. This season, he is on pace for 37 points, which is, it's slightly concerning. He has been getting worse in terms of point production over the years, but he is still a very, very versatile, solid, offensively minded defenseman who does some really good things at both ends of the ice. I'm not going to use his declining point production to make some sort of a narrative that Rasmus Andersson is not good or not valuable or whatever, but him alongside of Mackenzie Weegar, they've formed two of, let's just say, the better defensemen on this team ever since you saw Nikita Zadorov, Chris Tanev, Noah Hanifin, and others leaving the team. Weegar, Andersson are the 1 and 2s, and everybody else follows suit. But when you think about the Calgary Flames and their situation on D, Rasmus Andersson is a right-handed guy. Mackenzie Weegar is also here. He happens to be right-handed as well, but Mackenzie Weegar is signed on till the end of 2031, making $6.2 million a year. He is long-term on Calgary. They made a commitment to him. And when you think about the Flames and their long-term projectability on the right side, it's not only Weegar and Andersson. You also have a prospect that a lot of people were talking about this season because of his absence from the World Junior team. Zayne Parekh is also a Calgary Flames guy, right-handed defenseman drafted top 10 in the most recent NHL Entry Draft, who is, by all accounts, going to be a super productive, point-producing defenseman in the long term. If this guy eventually becomes the number 1 quarterback in Calgary, I don't think anybody is going to be surprised. But when you think about Rasmus Andersson, whose contract expires next year, there is a little bit of uncertainty as to whether or not he is going to be an option for this team long term. Also, there's the entire conversation on the Calgary Flames and their standings, whether or not their competitiveness in the Western Conference playoff picture bodes well for them potentially selling off some pieces. They are just on the outside looking in at the wildcard spot right now. They actually do have a higher points percentage than Vancouver, but Vancouver has another game played. So the Calgary Flames are right in there in the playoff mix, which is something that I don't think a lot of people would have expected heading into the year. A lot of people, myself included, thought the Flames wouldn't have been too good, but they had a hot start. They kind of trailed off a little bit, but they've started to win some games here and there once more. And with this in mind, it becomes a lot more difficult to define the Flames as a definitive seller. And as a result, you've had Rasmus Andersson. His name has been tossed out there in trade talks. We've been talking about him with Edmonton. We've been talking about him with Vancouver. Oh, these teams need defensemen, and they could use a right-handed guy, and Rasmus Andersson's a bona fide top 4, so obviously there'd be a link there. We've made the video about Rasmus Andersson in Vancouver quite a bit, but this shade that he ended up throwing towards Vancouver in this Sportsnet article, ooh, it's a pretty big one. Let's go out there and talk about it. Rasmus Andersson wants to remain a Calgary Flame for the rest of this season, next season, and hopefully beyond. But it's not that simple. He admitted as much Friday in a quiet one-on-one with Sportsnet. I love playing here, and I've always loved playing here, and that's never going to change, said the Flames D-man. I hate the Oilers, I hate the Canucks, and that's just the way I am. Of course, I would love to stay here, but I've heard from everyone else who's been in my situation that it's a business, so we'll see what happens. The article then dives into the situation. It talks about how he was drafted as a Flame and how he's gotten this long tenured career. In a billion-dollar business, it's all about asset management. Andersson would be a hot commodity on the open market, especially with a year and a half left on his deal worth $4.5 million. I've got no say in it. I have a 6-team no-trade list, so it's out of my hands. July 1st is when I can re-sign, and we're in January. It's all in Craig Conroy and Don Maloney's hands as to what happens to me until my contract is up, unless we find a deal. It's not like I'm sitting on a full no move. The article asks whether or not Andersson is happy with the Flames and what they're doing and how he made the Four Nations team. For sure I'm happy, said Andersson, a character who has followed up with a bulk of his 6 goals with his now trademarked death stare. All you can ask for is to fight for a playoff spot. We've proven a lot of people wrong, and I love being a part of this group. My indication from up top is that they're happy. We're all good. But I wanted to talk about the comments that he made. I hate the Oilers, I hate the Canucks, I want to stay here in Calgary. Because honestly, it's good fan service to hear a guy saying that about a divisional rival. Oh yeah, I hate those guys. I never want to play for those guys. Screw those guys. Okay, he doesn't go that far, but still, that kind of sentiment, you know, that reasonable outlook that a player that's so passionate for his team would hate all the rivals of their team. But at the same time, while it is good fan service and it's good loyalty-building commentary for a guy to say that he hates his rivals, I do question whether or not he actually would play for Vancouver and if he would like it here. You know, maybe that's kind of stupid to say, oh, he just said he hated the Canucks, so why would you say that? But that's the thing, right? It's different when you're a player, you're on a team, you build these emotional connections with the team, the identity, and the fans, but when you're available on the market, everything changes. When you're a free agent, everything changes. When you become open feeding grounds for other teams to start picking at and start offering you their elevator pitches, then you become a little bit more reserved. We had seen Vancouver Canucks guys in the past put aside whatever rivalries or emotions they felt to go to Calgary and other situations too. I mean, that one offseason with Chris Tanev and Jacob Markstrom. They went from Vancouver to Calgary, no issues there, and I'm not too sure if it's fair to say that those guys aren't necessarily as emotional as Rasmus Andersson. Jacob Markstrom is a super emotional guy. But it's just like, when you are in a position to talk the talk and say what your fans want you to say, okay, you're going to do it and it's great, but once you become a piece of the market, once you're on the free agent market, okay, it's just, oh, I'll just go wherever gives me the most money, or whichever team has the best opportunity for me. Like, if Vancouver is a super defined cup contender in the 2026 offseason, and Rasmus Andersson's a free agent, and they need a right-handed defenseman, if the Canucks give him the most money, they're a good team, they're a good situation, I think it would be reasonable for Andersson to be like, okay, I know I hated these guys, but if they set me up with a chance to win, and if they're giving me the bag, sure, let's go there. Like, I don't think that's too foreign of an idea, right? They had spoken about this on Sportsnet 650 yesterday on Canucks Central with Yannick Hansen, and Hansen said pretty much the same thing, like, yeah, it might have been difficult for me to play with Chicago back in 2010, 2011-ish days, but I did have some battles with San Jose, and I got traded over there, and I thought it was a great opportunity. It was a good chance for me to win. So I put aside my differences and was able to succeed on that team. And that is ultimately what I think applies with Rasmus Andersson. Even if he might hate the Canucks, he might hate the Oilers, there probably is like some sort of reasonable doubt that exists in the minds of collective hockey fans that says, okay, yeah, you say you hate them, but if you got the chance to play for them, you probably would. Right? I don't know. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, whether or not this business-like aspect of the game transcends whatever hatred or emotions you can have that are tied to your hockey team and your job, and whether or not that does hold up in some sort of a commentary that says, yeah, I hate the Canucks, therefore I would never ever play for the Canucks. Even if they offered me $10 million AAV in the open market for 8 years, I would not play for them, I hate them, etc., etc. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Andersson throwing some massive shade. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.